the Irish guy, and right, that was a crazy Premier League game week. What I'm going to do now is take a look and see what secret or something we have learned about every Premier League club from that crazy weekend. Right, let's go. Arsenal, they hate Man City. Look, we can all see now that Man City and Arsenal is now an ugly, tense rivalry. Things used to be horrible between Arsenal and Man United. The full-time whistle on Sunday afternoon reminded me of Pizzagate 2004, except instead of Fabregas sneakily chucking pepperoni at an old man, you now had Haaland lobbing the ball off Gabriel's head as if he was bullying some nerd during dodgeball class in PE. You then had him patronize him by telling him to be humble. He then got in the face of Gabriel Jesus, which is awkward because don't forget, they were teammates for a month. Haaland literally nicked his job. And then the Norwegian even squares up to Arsenal debutant Miles Lewis Skelly, asking him who the hell he was. Why do I get the feeling this isn't the last time Haaland's going to mock the MLS? Honestly, you might have been fooled for thinking this was a friendly rivalry, considering the two managers are mates. But make no mistake about it, this is potentially one of the ugliest Premier League rivalries of all time. Aston Villa, John Duran is having a purple patch. Everyone, relax. I'm going to let you all in on a little secret. I once drank mouse pee during a game of Truth or Dare, but also, John Duran is having a purple patch. I mean, are you kidding me? This Colombian striker, netting again against Wolves on Saturday for his 4th goal of the season, was proof to me that everything he touches right now turns to gold. Lads, this is someone who's yet to start a single match this season. Nah, more than that. He's yet to be given more than half an hour on the pitch in one go this season, and he's already 3rd in the race for the Golden Boot. But people are now going overboard.
There isn't a single under-23 striker in the world that is better than John Duran.
Sorry, are we not pretending the Villa bench warmer is better than Benjamin Sesko, who rattled in 18 goals for RB Leipzig last year? I wouldn't even be confident in proclaiming that this Colombian hotshot is a superior striker to Brian Bobby. You know, the Dutch striker with nearly 50 goals for Ajax is just 22. And don't even get me started on comparisons to Endrick, that 18-year-old mini R9 at Real Madrid. If anyone thinks Duran would get any sort of game time under Carlo Ancelotti at the Santiago Bernabeu, then you probably also think that the moon is a giant block of evil cheese and that cows can speak Chinese. Look, I'm not saying that Duran isn't quality. He is. But I think he's the future Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. A Europa League level striker for Leeds, Chelsea and Middlesbrough over 20 years ago. A man who managed to finish second bottom of both the Premier League and La Liga. Weirdly, we're Charlton Athletic and Atletico Madrid. I know, I'm confused too. This reminds me of misused purple patch at Swansea. Duran is coasting on a mixture of luck and confidence, but he ain't keeping it up. Bournemouth, Kepa might be a mistake. So I guess Kepa might be rubbish after all. I personally thought that Kepa Arrizabalaga was a major coup for Bournemouth. Dumping Neto was harsh, but be given the chance to sign the most expensive goalkeeper to ever live, someone who was eating cookies at Real Madrid just months ago, that was the risk worth taking, surely. But then again, I also thought that West Ham were once clever when they harshly squeezed their reliable number 1 Adrian to the bench to upgrade for a far more famous marquee name in Joe Hart. It didn't work. Lads, for Luis Diaz's first goal, Kepa actually raced out of the box to try and head the ball clear. The guy was so far out of his area that when the ball hit the net, he was actually 10 yards ahead of his last centre back. Are you having a laugh? 2 minutes later, and Diaz nutmegs him for number 2. Those car crash 2 minutes might just make the Cherries fans think they should have stuck with Neto. Brentford, Brian Mbemo was on fire. Lads, I don't think anybody has noticed this yet, but Brian Mbemo is on complete and utter fire. The Cameroon striker has been remarkably consistent in the Premier League for Brentford. His end of season number since promotion have been 9, 8 and 9. Yeah, so far this season, he's got 4 goals in 5 Premier League matches. The guy is full of pristine confidence, smashing an expert volley into the top bins of Spurs net in the first minute. This 25-year-old is on course for his first ever double-digit season in any top flight. Get him in your fantasy league team now. Brighton, Hinchelwood needs to nail down midfield spot. Lads, Jack Hinchelwood is amazing. This is a 19-year-old versatile kid at Brighton whose dad was a professional footballer. His uncles were a professional footballer. His granddad was a professional footballer. His great-granddad was a professional footballer. I don't know what is in the Hinchelwood family genes, but clearly they all drink some sort of wicked orange juice for brunch. The Hinchelwoods have been a permanent fixture in the English football pyramid since the 40s. Can you imagine the obscene pressure there was on Jack to make it in the game? Can you imagine if he had told his dad, someone with over 100 appearances for Brighton himself, by the way, can you imagine if he told his dad when he was 12 that he wanted to become a postman instead? He'd have probably been placed on an adoption website. But as what this goal scoring performance in the 2-2 draw with Nottingham Forest told me is that Jack Hinchelwood needs to nail down a position at the base of midfield. That is where he plays for England under 21s, but he sort of botched his Brighton audition a year ago when he played 87 minutes there as the Seagulls crumble 6-1 at Villa Park. Since then, he's just been a makeshift full back. But lads, he is so much better than being Brighton's answer to John O'Shea, someone who'll just play anywhere he's asked for 20 years. No! Hinchelwood is Billy Gilmore's Aur's air is confidence, calmness on the ball, range of passing, defensive awareness. He is so much more than some grubby left back. Chelsea, they have the most competitive attack in the league. If there's one thing that Chelsea's win at West Ham taught me, is that they have the most competitive attack in the league. They lined up with the front four of Jadon Sancho, Cole Palmer, Nicholas Jackson, and Nunez Dwake, but brought on the likes of Pedro Neto, João Felix, and Christopher Nkunku. 3 subs have cost over £300 million in transfer fees so far in their young careers. Chelsea also have a £100 million skinhead in Mikhailo Mudryk, feigning to even make it off the bench. How on earth does a promising young attacking midfielder like Omari Kalima expect to get in the side? Of all the attacking options at European clubs, Chelsea's is the most stacked. And whoever is given the nod to start the game, they must feel such a weight of pressure. You have to perform or you're suddenly chucked to the back of the queue. Crystal Palace, Eddie Nketiah is at the wrong club. Eddie Nketiah is a striker, right? A purebred centre forward. So why on earth did Crystal Palace spend years trying to entice him to the club, only to then try and twist him into some weird number 10? This is a pacey striker who should be playing on the shoulder of the last defender. But it seems like Oliver Glasner is desperately trying to morph him into being the replacement for Michael Olise. He's played 3 games for Palace so far, and he's played as an attacking midfielder in each and every one, including against Manchester United on Saturday, where he did nothing. And Nketiah must be so confused. Everton, Iliman Ndiaye has proved me wrong. Lads, I did not think that Iliman Ndiaye would work at Everton. Come on, a flair player, a juicy maverick baller number 10. How is he supposed to survive in Sean Dyche's cynical Route 1 football? But to be fair, he's now being the easiest on the eye Everton flair player since they had James Rodriguez in the building 4 years ago. Dyche actually gives this 24-year-old Senegalese attacking midfielder license to roam, and he took his goal against Leicester City beautifully. I didn't think he would work in Dyche's side at all, but he's proven me wrong. Fulham, Rodrigo Nunez is a one-season wonder. Lads, I suspected this last season, but I did not have proof yet. I do now. Remember when 23-year-old Brazilian striker Rodrigo Nunez responded to Fulham signing Amanda Broya on loan from Chelsea in January by exploding with 9 Premier League goals? Yeah, I already know that foolish cookie brain Gambins would have been flooding their fantasy football teams with him this summer, expecting him to do it again. But now, last season was a fluke because the guy started Fulham's first 3 Premier League matches, didn't score a sausage. He started the last 2 games on the bench, and his replacement, Raul Jimenez, scored in both matches against West Ham and Newcastle. Jimenez now looks like a beast, almost back to his elite Wolves form. He looks powerful, confident, and strong once again after spending years looking like a miserable Mexican Humpty Dumpty. Sorry, Muniz, but you ain't getting back in this team. And by the end of the season, you're going to be about as relevant as Frankie Muniz. Sorry, that was me. I like the milk in the middle. Ipswich Town, new squad are gelling fast. Look, I know that Ipswich Town are yet to win a match, but I have to give Kieran McKenna some morsels of credit because this is one of the fastest gelling squads I have ever seen in the Premier League. Usually when a team is pulled apart over the summer and has to start again with 11 first team signings marching through the door, usually it does not work. These players need time to gel. I mean, Christ, look at West Ham's summer makeover this summer. 2 years ago, Nottingham Forest signed half the planet and yet just won 1 of their opening 12 league games. But this new look Ipswich team, full of players who are still only learning each other's names, they're now 3 Premier League games unbeaten and showed enough character to battle back and salvage a last minute point at Southampton. It shows this squad is all together. Lads, I haven't seen a team knit together this quickly after an avalanche of signings since Chelsea in 2003, a monster 13 summer signings. And yet they still won 11 of the first 14 league games. They began December top of the league, ahead of Arsenal's Invincibles. And yet Claudio Ranieri was still sacked at the end of the season. Bit mean. Leicester City don't have enough creativity. If Leicester City are serious about staying up, then they need to be beating their relegation rivals at home and a completely dominated possession stats. To be chasing an equalizer for an hour and then a winner for half an hour, the fact that the Foxes only had 2 shots on target, I don't know if this is a creativity issue or a goal scoring issue, but to only test Jordan Pickford twice, that's pretty rotten stuff. Liverpool, Darwin Nunez will have a comeback. Darwin Nunez is not finished. When eras come to an end and a new manager replaces a legendary one, there's usually 1 or 2 major changes to the team, and people naturally assume that after a below par season last year, that Darwin Nunez is now finished. An unused sub with the opening day against Ipswich, who's only asked to come off the bench in the next 4 games. Clearly Arne Slot didn't like this Uruguayan striker, right? But not just that. His confidence was now be at the bottom of a mud puddle. He was now a shadow of being that Benfica star. That watching him for Liverpool now would be a bit like watching Fernando Torres painfully stroll about the pitch in a Chelsea shirt. I mean, lads, let's be real. Nunez had not scored in his previous 14 matches for Liverpool. This is a £70 million striker who should be in the peak of his powers. I think a huge chunk of his own supporters had actually given up on him over the summer. But I'm sorry, I remember Peter Crouch ending a ridiculous Liverpool goal drought 22 games, by the way. But his confidence was so low that all he could muster was a complete fluke of a deflected own goal to get him off the mark against Wigan. He wouldn't have had the confidence to even think about cutting in and unleashing a left-footed drive into the far corner of the net like Nunez did on Saturday. The likes of Torres was a world-class footballer, but even he could have never done that whilst he was flopping big time at Chelsea. So no, this actually is not a confidence issue. Nunez is still there and he does have a Reds future. Just you watch. Man City, title bid has been rocked, but not as much as you think. Lads, does anyone find it ironic that Rodri spent last week complaining about how the player has been forced to cram in so many matches into the schedule and that he performs better when he's not tired and he has a rest? Yeah, he then busts his ACL and now won't play a match for at least 6 months. Sadly ironic, yes, but what we have learned inside the last week is that yes, Man City have had a damaging hole blown in their title bid, sure, but I don't think it is as disastrous for them as people are making out. People are already saying the title race is over. No, look, Rodri is a world-class midfielder, sure, but I seem to remember City surviving half a season without Kevin De Bruyne during the 18-19 season. He tore his lateral knee ligament in the opening game of the season, weirdly against Arsenal too. He missed 19 Premier League games that season through injury. He only completed the full 90 minutes 4 times that season. And yet City still won the league with nearly 100 points on the board, stopping a world-class Liverpool. Yeah, I know they play in different positions obviously, but 2018 De Bruyne was just as important as 2024 Rodri. And Pep's men still found a way to win each week. Honestly, do people really not think that the 30-year-old Mateo Kovacic, a 4-time Champions League winner, was competed in a World Cup final? Do you really think he won't be able to help City win each week playing in the base of midfield? Yes, the Rodri injury is a blow, but for everyone to say the league is now done, give your heads a wobble. Man United, Marcus Rashford isn't back yet. Lads, I don't get it. Erik ten Hag does not seem to have a clue what he's doing. You've just played Marcus Rashford back into form, with him looking sparkling with a refreshed goal at Southampton. And then he roasted Barnsley like a marshmallow in the 7-0 League Cup win. But choosing to then stop the momentum and rise of Rashford by dropping him back to the bench for the trip to Crystal Palace. Lads, Rashford has looked like a chunky pudding for the last year. But when he shows that glimpses of his confidence are flooding back into his veins, I'm telling you now, that omission, being dumped back to the bench, that will have ruined all that. Imagine if Ten Hag had started an in-form, fully confident Rashford, and then he bagged the winner at Sellers Park. You could have potentially unlocked a £100 million footballer this season, but choosing to rotate the team now in September. Sorry, Ten Hag, but you've absolutely ruined his momentum. Newcastle, Amanda Staveley doesn't really care about your club. Oh, Newcastle fans, look away now. This is gonna feel rough. The fan-connected power couple who helped facilitate the takeover of the club, Amanda Staveley and her husband Mirdad Gurdousi, after quitting Newcastle a few weeks ago, and after those worrying rumors that they might be acquiring a stake in Spurs, oh, here they were, sitting in the VIP lounge at Tottenham's ground against Brentford. This is a bit like being dumped by your beloved wife and then seeing her out to lunch with your cousin. Lads, we shouldn't be surprised. This is a woman who apparently pocketed £10 million from the Man City takeover when she was just 35. She then tries to complete a Saudi takeover of Liverpool. She would have taken a seat on the Anfield board. Then she spends years trying to push through a Newcastle takeover. And now it's Spurs. She's collecting Premier League clubs like Pokemon cards. This is somebody who received so much airtime during the Newcastle Amazon documentary. She was instrumental in signing the players. She was telling the Jordans that she wanted to help them win the Premier League one day. And yet now she's broken up with them and is now wanting to add their top 4 rivals Spurs to her collection. What this weekend probably showed the Newcastle fan base is that she didn't really have any long-term ambition to stay with the Magpies. Is she now actually going to be cheering on Spurs? Oh, Nottingham Forest, Nuno Santo deserves more respect. Look, I know Nuno Santo was sent off against Brighton, but let's be real. How many people thought this Portuguese boss would be the first out the door this season? Public perception massively changed about this man over the last 5 years. When he was qualifying Wolves for Europe, back in 2018, he was linked with the jobs at Chelsea, Manchester United and Arsenal, seen as one of the most promising young coaches in the world. Then things went a bit stale at Molineux. He left and was only being offered fairly average jobs at Everton and Crystal Palace instead. Then he got lucky to be given the Spurs job after half the world told him no. And then when he was sacked before Christmas, he was then banished to the Saudi Pro League, and everybody was skeptical when Forest gave him another Premier League crack. But I'm sorry, lads. Unbeaten in his first 5 Premier League matches this season. Put some respect back on this man's name. Southampton, Russell Martin doesn't know his best team. He doesn't. Lads, 4 players started Southampton's game against Ipswich. That started their opening match of the season against Newcastle. Even try and compare with the previous game against Man United. Only 6 of the starting 11 remain. Look, fair play to the man for trying to ring the changes, but it's very obvious he doesn't know anything close to his strongest 11. Tottenham, Brennan Johnson is quality. Yeah, I've already said it in the Prem catch-up. Brennan Johnson just proved to me yet again that this live wire right winger is so much better than everybody thinks. West Ham, Lopetegui is losing the dressing room. Lads, I thought the West Ham would utterly explode and kick on this season. But this stinks of a manager who's already lost the dressing room. Come on, this ex-Spain coach just spent the entire match against Chelsea berating his players on the sidelines. He dragged new signing Guido Rodriguez off before half-time. I'm sorry, but is it really necessary to humiliate him like that? Could you not have waited to subtly do that change at half-time instead of making him embarrassingly trudge off in front of the fans? I thought he would do bits with the Hammers this season, but so far it looks like he's lost the dressing room. This reminds me when Jose Mourinho replaced the man he managed for Chelsea after just 28 minutes in October 2015. Yeah, he was sacked within 2 months. Wolves, Gary O'Neill is rubbish. Does this even need to be said? Anyway, that's it. What do you think? Let me know. What secret did you uncover about your team this weekend? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, as always. I'll talk to you in a while. And yes, I know there's no gel in my hair. God, this looks hideous.